All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Unprepared Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a great episode here today. I've got Matt Allison, the mayor of Fenwick Island, one of my good friends and a man who knows a lot about the clean economics of dirty work. He has started his own company. He's taken a company and really grown it to exceptional heights. We'll talk about a lot of the details, what it took to get there. It's not easy, right? Just like any business, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes that you don't necessarily see or hear about very often. But we're going to talk about all the good things that can come from getting your hands dirty and working in physical labor in the trades with Matt Allison here. So Matt, thank you so much. I know there's a lot of other things in your resume that you want to talk about. Please walk us through anything. Tell us about your background, anything that you've done, anything to kind of call out here, growing Pristine Green.
Well, first, thanks for having me on. I am the owner of Pristine Green Landscape Services. I went to traditional college, 4-year degree from Penn State in landscape contracting, design, build. I have about 20 years of experience in the landscape industry. I've scaled my company from 1 employee to over 40 employees now, and I've successfully managed landscaping projects valued up to $300,000. So I've kind of seen it all, done it all at this point.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, it is remarkable how much some of these projects can really grow. I mean, I know growing up, snow would come, parents would encourage us to get out and shovel driveways and stuff. You try to make 10, 20 bucks a driveway or something. But I mean, just seeing price tags like the single project can be $300,000, right? I'm sure that takes months and months of planning before you actually get into the actual execution of it. I mean, that's on par with some serious big projects that you hear from a lot of those big Fortune 500 companies. That's no small feat, man. That's exciting.
No, it definitely isn't. And it's not something that happens overnight. There's obviously a lot of trial and error with smaller projects. You get burn on some jobs, you learn from it, and you keep building from there. And, it's all the same processes, getting a small job versus a big job is just larger scale. That's all it comes down to.
I like it. Well, that's awesome, man. So we talked a little bit about the flow beforehand, but really the idea here is that you're going to walk us through all these common misconceptions with working in the trades, right? Particularly anything with landscaping and hardscaping. But we've got the Google Trap section to kind of lead us off, right? We're going to talk about what are these top searches or these top things that folks are looking at from the outside in when talking about working in the trades. And we're going to bust these myths. You're going to tell us where these things are going wrong, where folks might have the right thought, but maybe the wrong execution, or vice versa. And we'll see what we can do to make this a little bit clearer.
Get it done. Yes.
Awesome. Well, hey, look, the first one I think is one that I've actually been hearing a lot more of to kind of bust this myth or talk in the other way. But the idea that trades are only for people who aren't smart enough to get a traditional 4-year college degree, right? You go to some big university or college. What do you think about that? I mean, is that as true as it used to be? I got to imagine that's not quite something that holds water. You're a very smart guy yourself, and you went the college traditional route. Talk to me about that misconception.
Yeah, I think this is a very common stereotype. I think if you go back years ago, it was just, you went through high school, you went to college, and that was just the way of the world. I think a lot of people are seeing now, especially with the rise in cost of college, that sometimes it's smarter. You might be smart enough to go, but it's smarter to save that money and jump right in and start, especially with trades. The jobs that are out there right now, there's a labor shortage when it comes to the trades. So there's a lot of money to be made with skipping that 4-year degree. So I don't think that's always necessarily the case. Even you look at some of these electricians, plumbers, these apprenticeships they have to go through right off the start. They're pretty rigorous. Some people don't even last through that because they're so rigorous, almost like colleges. So I think that's like an old school misconception. I think people are kind of starting to change their idea on how they look at that. You obviously, you went to college. I went to college. That college debt is it's a lot of money. A lot of money you have to put out. I mean, you do gain good knowledge, but sometimes going straight in and getting that hands-on knowledge, that's there's something to be said about that as well.
Yeah, it's such a good point, man. I do think that there's a ton of sayings that come to mind. One of them is like fortune favors the bold, and you can put any sort of, a twist or different verbiage to it. But like, the fact of just going and doing it, right? Getting your hands dirty, getting the apprenticeship, getting the experience, right? I mean, I think a lot of the times the draw of the 4-year degree now is really more of like, hey, you prove that you can do it, right? Like you can sit
Yeah.
down and you can learn some arbitrary class, you can memorize notes enough to put it back on a test. And it's kind of a stamp of they can throw something at you that you probably haven't done before. You can adapt and kind of learn it or overcome it. I
Yeah.
gotta imagine. I mean, the same principle probably applies to these apprenticeships, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna throw you into a burst water pipe, and like you got to
Yeah.
think under pressure before the house floods. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
that's high stakes. You don't get that sitting in a classroom.
No, not at all. And I even look back, obviously I wouldn't trade for the world going to Penn State for 4 years, probably the best
Yeah,
4 years
baby.
of my life. I enjoyed it,
Yeah,
great education. But, coming out and they had a great landscaping program, but coming out, there's some things that you just don't learn until you get out there in the field and you're working. And like you said, thinking on your feet, you can't teach that in a classroom. That just comes with experience over time, and then there's guys
yeah,
that, you know, went through high school and went straight into it where I was in college, and they learned those things 4 years earlier than me. So they get a little bit of a jump start on it. So
yeah,
there's a little bit of give and take there, but I think back in the day it was looked at as, maybe not smart enough to go. But now I think that some people are smart not to go and to jump right into it. So
I like it.
yeah.
Get your feet wet. Yeah, learn trial by fire, man. There's only one way to kind of become an expert, right? You got to
Oh
learn. You
yeah.
got to do those 10,000 hours to be a an expert in whatever you're doing. Start young.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times, obviously trades work going through high school. That's jobs that, when you're in high school, you can get because they don't require that college degree. And I think people start to see that money they're making just in high school and what
Exactly.
they can, hey, let me skip 4 years, jump right into this, and what I could make, coming right out of high school. So there's a lot of draw to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's actually a really good second misconception for us to jump to because the kind of growth and scale, right? When you're young, you probably don't need as much money, but as you kind of get older, maybe you get families, you got more mouths to feed. You just kind of naturally need more, I think, over time. One of the other misconceptions that I've certainly heard a lot about is that you're kind of stuck, right? You go in and maybe you've got an area of expertise and you bounce around a little bit, but for the most part, you're kind of earning potential. What you can do is maybe capped by how many hours you want to put in or how many job sites you can do. And ultimately, unless you've got some secret trick up your sleeve, like you can only be in one place on one job site at a time. So what do you think about that misconception? Like what's the growth potential? How do folks that are getting into the trades, how do you kind of grow your career within the industry?
So I think this is funny, and I think you can look at it in two different ways: as a business owner in the trades and as a
Yeah.
person who works in the trades for a company. I have employees that have worked with me for years now that start off in the field, general labor out, grinding every single day, who work
Yeah.
themselves up to be a foreman on a crew, who now are, have a company truck, paid vacation, they're on salary, and they've done it through motivation. They wanted more, so they busted their rear ends. And I think it kind of relates as a business owner as well. I mean, I first started, I had one employee working for me, and I knew I wanted more. So I kept growing. It's about how much time you want to put into it, how much you want to grind is as far as it'll take you. And I think that's a common misconception that you get stuck there because you also get into corporate jobs where, hey, you might be the hardest
Yeah.
worker in the room, but they don't see you as that. They see you as a number and you kind of get lost in the mix. So a lot of these trades jobs, there are bigger companies,
Yeah.
obviously, but I think you're more valuable, especially with the labor shortage now. That there is that room to grow and expand. It all depends on, how much drive you have and what you want.
Yeah. It's true. Numbers on a spreadsheet, man. It is remarkable. You're right. You could put in hours and hours. And even with like remote working now, I feel like a lot of folks, you could be online, you know, 12, 13 hours a day easily.
Yeah.
You kind of blur between like when you log on and when you log off, when the workday ends, right? Whatever it may be. And you may be putting in dozens and dozens of hours of overtime a week, and it doesn't ultimately matter, right? If
Yeah.
something dovetails with the business, you just may be in a department or something that just gets outsourced or transitioned, and there's just not much you can do to control your destiny there.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing with the trades as well, is that it's never going to go out of demand. I mean, you got to think most of it is going to lead into infrastructure, things that make the world run. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of times those corporations, the work they do is based on the people in the trades and what they've created and maintained as well. So I think there's always room to grow in the trades. Obviously, corporate America, there is. I think there's a lot better opportunity with the shortage of labor for growth and job security in the trades.
I like it. I'd be a little bit remiss if I didn't bring up the third misconception here, but the innovation, right? And the ability for, ultimately, hey, I've got two hands, right? I'm as
Yep.
good as I can swing a hammer, right? But what does innovation look like in the trades business, right? Are you guys incorporating like new back office, technical processes to make things much more efficient for when you get on the job site? Or is innovation really like, hey, you're just looking for guys that are just, I mean, Picasso's guys that can swing a hammer and drive a
Yep.
forklift like nobody you've ever seen before.
So it's funny because a lot of these points kind of go hand in hand, and
Yeah,
there is a lot of technology just on the installation side, equipment side, that it's always evolving in the landscaping industry. And I think a lot that drives it, just specifically in the landscaping industry, is the shortage of labor. So you try to find things to purchase to replace that manpower. We blow all our mulch in with a machine called a mulch blower. I can have three guys in a day put down the tractor trailer load of mulch versus guys doing it by hand. That'd probably be a 7, 8 man crew. So there's
yeah,
always, different innovation ways that are coming along that you hop on that wagon because it replaces X amount of guys. Same thing with snow. So I think it's definitely a big thing in the landscaping industry. More, how can we substitute guys for equipment? You also look at lighting. Now everything's powered by apps for landscape lighting. They can go right on their app, change the color of their lights, do
bro.
different themes for different holidays. And where you go back, 10 years ago, and it was just plain Jane, white light shine up on a house every night. So there's definitely a lot of innovation. There's been talks with mowers that are robotic powered and can
Yeah,
replace manpower. And I don't think it's as much replacing as like we're going to go fire people, but you could take on that much more work now because you
right.
can't field that many employees. I mean, my company alone, I have over 40 employees. I probably, if it wasn't a matter of finding manpower, I could probably grow this to 80, 100 employees. But I can't go, obviously, you can't commit to work that you can't get done. So,
Yeah,
but the scary thing is some of the huge price tags that come with some of those things. So there's a little bit, and there's a little bit there. Plus, you lose that personal touch when you start using, machinery to do the work that thinks on its own versus a human.
yeah. That's a good point. It's kind of a brave new frontier out here that I feel like, just everything from how people run, business meetings to how people mow their lawns. I mean, you're spot on. I saw something today that, the little like Roomba for your lawn,
Yeah,
it kind of parks in the shed, it goes out and mows the lawn. You don't have to worry about it. And
yeah.
it does its thing.
Yeah,
That's
they're even
interesting.
talking about those large scale. I know we use a brand called Exmark, and they have the large commercial mowers now that are going out on their own on a larger scale, so that you could do like a whole town-owned community and stuff.
Holy
So
smokes.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. But like I said, the price tags seem like they're going to be huge. But
Yeah.
if you can grow your company that way, I mean, might be worth it. It's all a
I
numbers
was
game.
Yeah. I mean, if that could take you from 40 employees, and maybe you have a couple new headcount to manage it, maybe you go to 50, right? Or something
Yeah.
like that. But, that takes your revenue from, I don't know, X a year to one and a half, two times that. I mean, I gotta imagine that's a pretty
Oh,
good little boost.
100%. 100%. And it's a great complement to the workforce that you have. So
Yeah.
I think a
It's
lot of
nice.
people think these, especially in the trades, this stuff's going to come along and take those jobs away. But
Yeah.
I think it's just going to complement the jobs that are already there.
I like that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
complementary forces. I mean, we've seen it a time or two in the past, right? Like when we went from like horses pulling plowers and stuff to automated things to the big heavy
Yep.
machinery on farms, right? Farmers didn't disappear overnight. They just changed how they farmed and the tools that
Yeah.
they used to do it, and they became more effective, right? So,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I
you
agree with
look
you.
in grocery stores, self checkout, they still need people there to watch out because guess what? Those things have time assistance needed, and you have to have
Yeah,
someone there. So it's more of a compliment to the job. I feel like.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. Actually, just picking your brain. I mean, do you think there's ever a world where we see maybe more like vertical integration with some of these like automated things? Like, could you see John Deere getting into like the services, kind of more of like the boots on the ground, going out and building some of these things along with the actual big production of heavy machinery? Or do you think those are going to kind of always be split things and you kind of focus on where you're best?
Yeah, I think you kind of focus on where you're best. But a lot of those bigger companies, they always want to get their hands kind of into anything,
Yeah,
and more streams of income, the better.
right.
So I could see them possibly doing that. I don't know what they would span out to, but yeah, especially with the world of AI and all that now, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff kind of crosses over, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't see it, but the potential's out there. So where there's money to be made, people will go.
Yeah, good. I mean, exactly. I'm sure we're not the first clowns to think about that or just kind of spitball
Yeah.
the idea. Crazier things have happened.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, well, hey, I love talking about AI because the technology stuff really seems to have kind of this badge of like prestige to it, right? And I think for our fourth misconception here, there's maybe this, I think kind of rude, but like a misconception that if you work in the trades, it's dirty work, you're not as skilled, right? There's almost like a lack of prestige when maybe you tell people or you say like, hey, I'm in this business line or whatever it is. I mean, what do you think about that kind of misconception of like it's not a prestigious industry? There's not a lot of good that comes out of it.
So I think it's a really funny point because I've actually run into this before too. I've told you tell people, hey, I'm a
Yeah.
landscaper. They're like, oh, you really? Like how do you pay your bills? You think you're out with a
Yeah.
push mower, just push mowing lawns every day.
Yeah.
I think it's been a society thing throughout the years. There's the blue collar jobs, and then there's white collar jobs, and I think it's starting to kind of change in recent years. People are realizing, especially with COVID and stuff like that, that a lot of these jobs we need these jobs. You go into restaurants and stuff like that, and they're understaffed, and people get frustrated. Hey, I can't get my meal, and my meal comes out cold and all that. But that all comes back to
Yeah.
the trades and how important those jobs are. So it might not be the job that you're sitting at a desk in a suit and you're the man every day. You might be dirty and you might be cleaning
Yeah.
porta potties, but guess what? They need cleaned at the end of the day. It's what makes the world go around. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of these people in the trades, and it goes back to the labor shortage. A lot of these people are making more money than some of these corporate jobs, especially when you get into electricians and stuff like that. There's tons of money to be made.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wicked. Have you ever had an instance where like you told somebody you were a landscaper, you're in the landscaping business, and they like clearly like kind of frowned or like looked at you sideways and
A
kind of
hundred
gave you
percent,
like oh man.
100%. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've definitely ran that before, and you can even tell, when I go on the job sometimes, and I
Yeah.
don't think people, especially being younger and having a company, you get some people who are a little older than you, and they want to tell you how the
Yeah.
job should be done, like they're educating you, and you're just the
Yeah.
hired labor. And then once you give them a background of, hey, this is the size of my company, here's the experience I have, then they're kind of like, oh, they look at it in a different light.
Yeah.
I think the whole idea in the landscaping industry is, hey, you're just someone who's uneducated, you didn't go to
Yeah.
college, and you're just out trying to do hard work, and it's funny, you do run into that a lot. It actually, I used to get a little upset about it. Now
Yeah.
I think it's funny.
Yeah. That's a
So
good attitude. Yeah, that's a good
yeah.
that's a good thing to take. You can't control everybody.
Oh yeah,
It's wicked. What do you
100%.
think? What do you think it is? Like I'm trying to think about like what I mean, I guess it's probably just like a societal like hey, a misconception that people have had, or a stereotype of like, it's just dirty work. You're not a smart guy. You don't know what you're talking about. So I can kind of look down on you because I don't have to be, like in the sun, working hard, breaking my back every day. And so like I'm somehow like better than you. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And you go back a ways, and it was never like that because a lot of people didn't go to college. And
Yeah.
then once the whole college thing started getting pushed, it kind of
Yeah.
society looked at it that way. Hey, you work in the trades. It's just you weren't smart enough to get, going back to our other point, smart enough to get in. So you're just doing what you got to do and make ends meet. And I think we've seen it a little bit, but I think society has kind of forgotten, what those jobs mean and what, if the trades stop working, the world stops working. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I, I
it's
think you I think you're spot on. It's the exclusivity of it. I think you're exactly right. Only a select few in a very exclusive club could get that education. And
yeah,
so as that became more and more available, it just became more and more of like a way to look down. Man, I think
yeah.
that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing to think about, but I mean, you go back in the '80s and even the '90s, and college wasn't a huge thing. It's more of
Yeah.
a recent thing that it's, hey, you got to go to high school, you got to go to college, and then you get out and you get a corporate job, and you go on from there. And I think it's a lot of colleges influence that because obviously they want the money, and
Yeah.
but I think we're starting to see a change in that with enrollment going down with colleges, and people just can't afford it. So
Man, I hear those stories about, colleges now being like 500,000. I mean, if you kind
yeah,
of choose or you go in the wrong set of parameters, right? Like you go out of state, you don't get any scholarships, you don't get any like tuition help or anything like that. I mean, it can be like 500 plus thousand
oh yeah,
dollars for a 4-year degree. And that might just be like just the tuition, like
yeah,
forget books and food and lodging and whatever else you need. Like that is that is an insane amount of money to kind of
yeah.
come up with for 4 years.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I've been luckily blessed enough to be able to pay for mine, but I know people that went to college and got their job out of college, and you're not making what you should make to cover those college bills, and you're in debt for a long, long time. And it kind of sets you up for failure from the start unless you're getting a really, really good job out of college.
I actually couldn't agree more with that. I do think that the educational like debt system, I think educational debt is like one of the few, if not the only pieces or kinds of debt that if you die, it'll transfer to like your loved ones and your family
Yeah,
and stuff. Like there's no like get out of jail free pass. You or your loved ones are paying for that some way or another. And
yeah. It's
it is
crazy to
not
think of.
cheap.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all. But
Man.
yeah, that's I think the whole prestige thing is going to slowly change here. So
I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, looking at the numbers that you've presented and everything you've done in this business, like there's no one that I can think of that's really in my like immediate circle that's had such a successful career, scaled and grown so quickly. I mean, the positive cash flow that you're generating and the project size that you're taking on, I mean, it's incredible. Even just where you are today, I'm sure obviously in the future that continues to grow and grow and you get better and better as your name and your brand and your reputation builds. But there's a
definitely,
lot of prestige. That's a very prestigious thing. I certainly can't say I've done anything in that realm. So hey,
I greatly appreciate that. I greatly
yeah,
appreciate that. And everyone has their niche and stuff like that. And I don't look. Everyone puts on their pants the same way. So that's the way I look at it.
uh, that's why they call you the mayor. Yeah, that's why they call you you're the go-to guy. It's hard not to love you.
I
Oh,
appreciate that.
oh. Well, man, I got one more misconception, and we're gonna go get a little more personal in the next kind of like segment here. But
Yeah,
the last one, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but just the revenue money making opportunity, right? I think there's a misconception that you're breaking your back all day, you're in the sun, you're sweating, it's hot, and you're not even making as much money, right? I'd be much better off going to get a job with JP Morgan and getting a nice $100,000 salary and sitting in a cool office. But what do you think about that? I mean, that just the revenue money making perspective of it just doesn't pay that well.
I think it's I think looking back, when you look, years and years ago, it didn't pay as well because there was so much of a workforce. Now with the lack of workforce, especially since COVID, I think the opportunities are endless and what you can make. And like, it kind of goes back to the other point, is as hard as you work is as hard as, it'll take you, and as much as you'll make. I mean, it's just within my company alone, the guys that bust their butts and, show up early every day and do anything you ask of them. Guess what? They make more and more money every single year. And because there's go-getters, and then there's people who are complacent. And I think the people who are complacent are the ones that don't make as much money and are kind of stuck in that same place. The go-getters, though, it's the world is your oyster pretty much.
I like that. I like that. What is kind of like a common like salary range? I mean, I'm sure it depends on a whole bunch of different factors, but like, what's kind of like an average run of the mill? Like, hey, you're maybe a young guy or girl looking to get into the workforce. Like, what's an average range that you should expect to kind of make, in your opinion?
So I actually get my workers up on a guest visa program from Mexico. It's called the H-2B program. So I have to pay prevailing wages. The government sets my minimum wage, and that's
Oh, wow.
everyone in my company, no matter whether they're an American worker. My minimum wage is $19.86 an hour.
Okay.
And then anything over 40 is time and a half. And I'll tell you, during our busy season, guys are getting 60, 70 hours a week. So they're bringing in nice paychecks. Now it's hard work, but hey,
Yeah.
you're getting paid well also. So, and a lot of them make up and above what the minimum wage is for me. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, that's a really good way to bash that misconception right there. Put some
oh
hard
yeah,
numbers to it, and kind of be able to say definitively, like, hey, it's not $1 an hour,
yeah, yeah.
hopefully no one's near that spectrum, but
Yeah, I hope not either. But I know that the whole 7.25 minimum wage or whatever it is now, it's obviously that's long gone. You get into these trades and people are making well above that, and especially you start getting into plumbing, HVAC, electricians. I mean, they're probably making $40, $50 an hour. So you
yeah,
can easily clear 100 grand a year just working in the trades.
sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah,
Sounds pretty good
definitely,
to me. I mean, I know
definitely.
that was a big, even just in my kind of personal career, the 100,000, a year mark was kind of a big milestone that I think a lot of people kind of have on their scoreboard. And it's not
Yeah,
something that I think you often come out and you can just check the box and say you've done, like
done.
it
Yeah,
takes a long while. There's no guarantees. And, you know, to have that opportunity kind of right from the beginning and really truly be able to say like, hey, it's kind of in my own hands here and I can
yeah.
control where I'm going to end up. I mean, there's something very empowering about that.
And that's the biggest thing I've loved about what I do is, hey, if I want something, I just go work for it. Nobody's going to hold me
Yeah.
back. The only person holding me back is myself. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've lived by.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Well,
Yeah,
this is the perfect segment switch here. Those were our kind of five big misconceptions. But Matty Al, I want to know more about you, kind of your career personally, right? Everything through the company, everything that you've kind of handled. So I want to dig in and know a little bit more about the man behind the
there you
mirror
go.
here.
Let's go for it.
Um, So we talked about kind of five big misconceptions, but I know there's probably more. You obviously have been in this industry for a long time, right? What's kind of the most frustrating misconception that you've heard, maybe besides the five, or we can even repeat them. But what are the big kind of frustrating ones that you probably come across in some way and they just kind of grind your gears for whatever reason or get under your skin?
So there's three big ones that I hear all the time, and they drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
One being is that's really expensive.
Okay.
People look at a price tag, and obviously, we see what everything costs nowadays. Nothing is cheap. They don't
Totally.
realize the cost of what labor, what we're paying. Going back to that point, they think, hey, you're working in the trades, you're paying these guys minimum wage, and you're making bazooka dollars. They don't see what the materials are costing. Obviously, everywhere materials are higher, groceries, equipment, and just the overall overhead. When you really know your numbers and you see those different things what your company's paying, I mean, it's alarming. You show up just to say you're doing a residential house and you're charging them $80 to mow their lawn, and people are like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." They don't realize
Yeah.
you're showing up with $100,000 truck,
Yeah.
$15,000 mowers. So that's definitely a big one that I get a lot is, that's really expensive. I wish I was taking all that money and was going straight in my pocket, but
Yeah, right.
yeah, a lot of it doesn't go there. A lot of it goes to, insurance is another big one. Fuel is a huge one for my company. So a lot of people don't realize that. Another thing is, they want to move forward with the job. Hey, can you start this week? And they get a little upset when you tell them you're a month to 2 months out. But
Yeah.
I get, kind of leads into my next point that all companies are the same. And well, this company said they could start this week. I'm like, well, I'd be a little concerned if they could start that soon, because then, if you're good, you're going to be busy. And no company is the same. And I don't compare myself to other companies. But customers try to make that a lot of times, even with pricing. Well, this company came in at this amount. Well, guess what? Maybe they don't know their numbers. They have different overhead. So it's
True.
those three big things are a little frustrating at times, but I don't think you're ever going to change it. It's just one of
Yeah.
those things you have to learn to live with and know you're going to get it and be prepared to explain yourself to them. But yeah, you
That's
get
good.
those three a lot.
Oh man, yeah, that would get me too. I want to say that we had caught up in the past about fuel costs. Wasn't there something like what are your annual fuel costs kind of across the company? Isn't it in upwards of like hundreds of thousands of dollars or something?
Yeah, I want to say last year I think we were around 200 grand in fuel.
Phew, just
Yeah,
in fuel.
yeah,
That's
it's
wicked.
it's a lot of money in
Yeah.
fuel. And when everything kind of doubled, I mean, that number almost, I went from 100 to almost 200 just overnight. And a lot of these
Jeez.
3-year contracts you're tied into, it's not like you could go to them and say, "Hey, now I'm jacking up the price on you." You're tied into a contract. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, fuel and insurance are the two big ones for me. They're my two biggest costs, other than labor, obviously. But yeah, they'll get you. So
I
obviously,
can
insurance
imagine.
doesn't get cheaper every year either.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I really can't imagine. I mean, one thing that I think is very consistent, in a lot of these interviews and kind of listening to a lot of other podcasts and very smart folks talk about the stuff that they do. One thread is no matter what business you're in, it can be as scalable as software, as physical as, landscaping, but just as a business owner, being able to like think through the big picture and see these challenges and kind of like overcome them, I think is such an underrated skill. I mean, I think it's so easy to look at something like landscaping and say, well, I'm the best, landscaper in the country. I can edge a lawn like nobody knows. And so I would, of course, be a great, landscaping business owner. But I mean, you can be as good. I mean, you could hand cut with scissors somebody's lawn to perfection. That doesn't mean you're going to be a good business owner. You're not going to know how to adjust to rising fuel costs or changing insurance rates or, take your pick of like the kind of underlying spine of a lot of this business stuff, man. And I got to give you some credit for being able to think on your toes and account for that. And it's kind of just, for lack of better words, keep going, right?
So
Stay in
yeah,
business,
that's
find a way to do it and just stay
yep.
alive.
Every day is you learn every single day. Nobody teaches you how to own and run a business. You go to college, they teach you the things you need to do the career and not run the whole side of the business. And it's a constant learning experience. That's for sure. I mean, going back and looking when I started back in 2015, I mean, what I've learned since then and what I still learn every day, if you're not receptive and willing to self-evaluate nonstop, then you're going to get left in the dust. I mean, that's the big thing. I constantly self-evaluate, look at myself first, and what can I do better here? And you live and learn.
Extreme ownership. I like it, my friend. I like it.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Survive. It's the only way to survive, It's a
Amen to
harsh
that.
truth of it.
Oh
Oh.
yeah.
Well, hey, what is the most important thing that you wish more people knew about your space and landscaping industry? Like, is there anything like one theme that you would kind of just wish you could project out and just let people know?
So I think a big thing is when it comes to landscaping, and landscaping's not just mowing grass, doing all that. It's doing drainage work, installing patios, different infrastructure. I think people look at landscaping as a price tag instead of an investment into their property. Landscaping's all about creating functional, long-lasting, sustainable outdoor spaces and environments. And it helps raise property values. It solves real world problems, going back to the whole drainage thing and other things, and improves the world we live in. You look
Yeah.
at parks and all that all comes down to landscaping. So
Yeah. Spot on.
yeah.
Spot on. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel like we've hit on like 15 different themes just in the interview so far.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of
There's a
tools in the
lot
tool
to
belt
it.
there.
Yeah, it's people think landscaping, they think traditional, you're just out mowing grass, but when you go to a full service company, you do touch on a lot of bases of a lot of different things. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a really good segue into the next question. And I almost want to take it a step further, but I mean, growing your business, right? Kind of taking a step back and looking at the true kind of like business operation side of it all. How did you grow your business? Did you have any kind of tricks that you used to really kind of scale it? And kind of maybe take us all the way back to the inception into where you are now. But also, I think going on that last point, I mean, what things were kind of hiding beneath the surface when you were trying to grow a business and kind of get to that next level that maybe was not as straightforward or not as easy as maybe you thought coming into it?
More so the dealing with clients, that whole side of it. I never, you think you give an estimate, hey, here's your work
Yeah.
and here's what it costs. You go out, do good work, and you're going to be good. But it's you learn a lot of things. People try to find loopholes into what you've given them, and you feel like there are not a lot of customers, but I'd say 1 out of 10 are trying to look for ways that hey, you give me an estimate on this, but you said you would do this. So it's always evolving with how the proposals are formatted, how in detail I go about what we're going to do on the job, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to come mulch your house. It's, hey, we're
Yeah.
going to edge to a depth of 1 to 2 inches. We're going to, weed the beds and do all this. And I think that's a big thing I learned early on. I still, to this day, get, learn and have to make adjustments based on that. But that was a big battle I fought early on, and, lost some money on some jobs because, I didn't do what I needed to do to cover myself. But yeah, I think that was a big struggle early on. Another one is labor. That was really hard before I started doing the visa program. It was always hard to find, good labor that was going to show up every day and do the work. But yeah, I think just sticking to detail-oriented work and all that kind of helped grow the company to where it is, and word of mouth. That was my biggest ally, was word of mouth. People say, hey, you should get this guy to do the work. So
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's
yeah.
cool. You kind of mentioned the visa stuff, and I was very curious because I know we have actually caught up on this a little bit, but there's obviously been a new presidency, right? A lot of new policy changes,
Yep.
and particularly around immigration. It sounds like you probably really thought ahead of this and have like a more formal, established route to make sure that your workers and everything aren't interrupted by any political agendas or the swing of the pendulum from one party to another. But I mean, have you seen any impacts from Trump taking over that's kind of impacted your business here?
So my company specifically, I have not. We actually, so I know I mentioned about the H-2B visa program. It's been a program that's been around for a long, long time. And what it is, I actually hire a company down out of Virginia. They handle all the government filings and the
Oh, wow.
recruitment down in Mexico. And I bring guys up for 9 months on a guest work visa. And I fly them up here. They work, fly them back at the end of the year. Now, the problem with that program is, though, in 2018, I believe it was, going back to 2008, when everything was booming before it collapsed, there was a returning worker clause. So where if I got the same, X amount of guys this year as I did last year, they don't count against the cap. The cap's 33,000 for the spring when we get the visas. Well, in 2018, that expired. It never got renewed. So now you have all these companies that have been getting all these visa workers for years. And I think last spring there was about 120, 130,000 applications for only 33,000 visas. And it's a
Okay.
random lottery is how you get picked. So I actually ran into it several years ago. I ended up not getting picked and found out I wasn't getting my guys, and it was the most miserable year I went through. I think we probably went through about 80, 90 employees, and to this day, I'm left with one of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
it was brutal. It was definitely brutal. So it's a big thing that every year gets grouped in with the spending bill. But you know how those bills go. There's a million different things, and there's always hope every year, and it's one of the ones that just get tossed out of it. So it's we've been fighting it for a long time, and hopefully it changes. I've been blessed the past several years of luckily getting my guys, because it's the best bet, and it kind of goes back to that. Hey, you want to work in the trades? There's opportunity there. There's jobs there, you know. And unfortunately, I got to go. I spend about, I think it's 50, 60 grand a year to get these guys up here, and then to pay them on top of that. So if I could find Americans to, you know, come in and do the work, it would save me a lot of money and create more American jobs. But you know, the wages are there and everything. It's just the workforce isn't.
yeah. I like the idea. We got to set up a new URL for you on your website or something just for
Yeah,
applicants.
right.
Hopefully this kind of gets the word out that, hey, there's some
Yeah.
opportunities. These guys can
Oh,
come and
yeah.
work for you.
And I think it goes back to the whole stigma of, you know, you get college, you get that corporate job, and people
Yeah.
kind of look down on those jobs. But there's plenty of money to be made, plenty of money.
Well, it sounds like a brutal year, and I'm impressed that you were able to get through it. It's not an easy thing to kind of unexpectedly happen and disrupt everything.
Nah, not at all. I was pulling my hair out every single morning.
Sheesh,
Yeah,
sheesh. That's the reality of the industry, I guess.
exactly.
Oh, well, Marielle, honestly, I think this has been fantastic. I don't think I have too much for you. We got a couple wrap ups, kind of recaps. One thing I like to do towards the end of it, just to kind of give a nice, succinct overview, is let's try and explain this like I'm five, right? Like if you were explaining this to a child or somebody that you really had to kind of boil down, maybe even some of these big macro level things and just put
Yeah.
them in like a quick sentence. How would we recap it? I think my quick synopsis is that there's a lot of good and a lot of green that comes out of working and getting your hands dirty and working in the trades. A lot of these misconceptions are just that, misconception. So maybe my quick sentence would be something along the lines of like, hey, it's a lot of opportunity. It's a very green space, to come up with a little bit of like an analogy. But what do you think?
No, I completely agree. I think the biggest thing, you know, that you can take from it is whether you want to do the traditional 4-year degree or you want to just hop right into the trades. I don't think either path is a bad path. Obviously, I took the one of doing the 4-year degree and going into the trades, but I think there's plenty of opportunity out there. And if you're a go-getter, I mean, the possibilities are endless. So if you want to take life by the horns and, you know, be in charge of your own destiny, go for it. You know, get a job in the trades and make some money.
I like it. I like it. It's the American dream, baby.
It
You
is.
know?
It is. It's how America was founded. You know, on hard
Yeah.
work.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Well, good. I got 5 quick wrapping questions for you. We'll do them in kind of quick succession. You can just shoot from the hip and let me know what you think. But what's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten that you've used in personal life and or career, but something that's really kind of stuck with you through the years?
So I think a big thing is don't take anything personally. I think a lot of
Good
times,
one.
being especially a self-employed person, obviously whenever you're dealing with the general public, there's going to be, you know, conflict and stuff like that. Not that you want it. It's a hard one to follow because I take a lot of pride in what I do. But I try to remind myself of that all the time. And I think a lot of people can take that, especially with today's day and age. A lot of people are very opinionated with social media and those types of things. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to try to remind yourself of all the time.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, like ego, ego is the enemy
Yeah.
is a kind of popular theme that I try to come back to too. But yeah, it's really easy to say, not so easy to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, hey,
Yeah.
number 2, what processes do you use that have really made a difference in your business and personal life that you wish or you would recommend to others to kind of use in their life?
So I think biggest thing that I've learned, and the way we've been able to grow and what we get compliments on a lot, is to over communicate with your clients.
Yeah.
The more you stay in communication with them, the more they feel valued. And instead of feeling like a number, you make them feel like, hey, this guy actually cares and wants to come do a good job. I think a lot of times, especially since COVID, with the shortages in labor, I mean, you call a lot of places and they say, hey, we're going to follow through, call you back, and they never call you back, and you're the one that has to call them. I know I run into it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things I've lived by is, I try to get back to everyone, email wise within the same day, if not the first thing the next morning. And it's to continue to over communicate.
A good one. I forget clients. I think you could use that in spouses, friends, family,
Yeah.
dog walkers, right? Whoever, take your
Yeah.
pick. I
Oh,
think over
yeah.
communicating, undervalued, very, very undervalued.
Exactly.
Well, hey, this is a little bit of a somber one, but what, if any, regrets do you have about your career, your personal life, something that you would maybe do differently if you had a time machine?
So, going back to the whole point with Penn State, I love my time there. Wouldn't ever
Yeah.
trade it for the world. But looking back, I could have probably saved a lot of money going to a trade school. And a
Yeah.
lot of times at trade schools, you get more hands-on experience actually in the industry because it's geared towards the trades. So I could have started my business 2 years earlier, be 2 years probably ahead of where I am now. But like I said, I wouldn't trade it for a world. Just something I think of every once in a while. And if hey, maybe someone else hears this, then maybe they think about it a second time. So
I like it. I like it. I like it. This one's kind of similar, but what would you have done sooner in your life if you could go back in time? Maybe business or personal related, but maybe also the system or the school choice there.
no, I'd say business wise, I'd say adopting better systems early on.
That's a
I
good
think a
one.
lot of times, especially when it was me and one guy out working, I mean, you're out grinding all day, coming home, trying to get the office work done, go to meetings. I mean, it was long, long days, and you kind of lose track. You're wearing a lot of hats, not doing any of them great. You're doing them good.
Yeah.
As I took on a more of a traditional office role, I think adopting better systems. Whereas, hey, if I'm out one day, someone else comes in, they can just hop right in and not skip a beat instead of the way I did things specifically. I started to do these things in the past couple of years, and you start to know your numbers better, start to see different things like that. I think that's something earlier on. If I would have did that, it would have opened my eyes to a lot more. But it's definitely, hey, better late than never. So
Yeah. I love that answer so much. And that's one of those things too, again, kind of going back to common threads. I think in the beginning, every business probably starts out in some fashion of like, we got to get it done, right? Like
yeah,
we got to get something out there. Perfection is the enemy of progress, or progress is the enemy of perfection. You know, just doing something feels really good, right? Like to say you got it done, but kind of completely neglecting to do any sort of review on what are the processes, what is this going to look like long term? Like, how do I get myself out of the spotlight so that the
yeah,
company, right, or everything else kind of grows without me necessarily being there, I think is really what makes, those long-term kind of founders and really successful businesses happen. And it's so easy to forget about them. It's so easy to
oh
get caught
yeah,
up in the day to day of like, I've just got to get this done. I've just got to do this. And then I'll come back to processes tomorrow. And it just never happens.
yeah. And at the end of the day, the processes make everything easier. It's
Yeah.
a lot to put them into place, but once they're in place, it makes your life a lot easier. The company runs better, your numbers better. But like you said, it's one of those things that you're just grinding, and it gets put on the back burner. It's one of those things like, hey, I got to get this done. This can go over here and wait. And the longer you put it off, the more you don't know about your company, and the more that if you're not there, someone's not there, that it's harder to replace that person. So.
Ah, well, this is a great send off. What's next for you, Matty Al? I would love to see you on some political local ballot, right? To really be the mayor, right? And have some fun with it. You're such an outgoing guy. I love talking to you every time we get the chance to catch up. But what's next for
Likewise.
you? Personal business? What are you working on next?
Just always working on the business, it's my main thing. I want to continue to grow my hardscape side of the business, the patios, walkways, outdoor living spaces. They're high ticket items, great margins on them. So I want to kind of focus on that and a little less on the maintenance side of things with the lower margins and continue to grow that. So
I like it. Well, that is a really good point too, because I know we were going back and forth a little bit. And in the theme of hardscaping, I still think some of those floating greens, right? You get a little
I know
challenge
it's a
of
great idea. Great
hitting a
idea.
hole in one. I think that would be a good chance to grow the business, get another set of revenue going. We'll
There we
see.
go.
We'll
New
see if we can
business
do it.
venture. Let's do it.
Yeah. If anybody listening has any good places, we're looking for like a local lake or something that we can use where there's not too much, like water flow so we can actually get the balls back. But we want to set up a big floating island, like a golf green, 110, 120
Yep.
yards off of some sort of perch and let folks hit balls and try and hit a hole in one to win some cash. So we
And I'll lose like 50 balls trying to hit it. So
oh, exactly. Well, Matty Al, this was a blast. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. I'm your host, John Whitridge of the Unprepared Podcast. And with us today is Matty Al, the mayor of Fenwick Island, one of my close personal friends. Matty, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was as good for you as it was for us, but I think this was a fantastic episode.
it was a pleasure. Thank you again for having me on. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, my friend. Well, I'm sure I'll talk to you later. And for everybody else, we'll see you guys for the next episode.